Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker. With me is Steeler Nation contributor and host of the Personal Foul podcast, Colton Gesser. Colton, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Glad to be here and ready to talk some more Steelers football. Couldn't be better.
Awesome. And we have plenty of Steeler football to talk about. You and I were just touching base on this before we came on live, but I think the first thing we should start the show off with was what an incredible weekend for Steeler Nation. I mean, number one, just owning the Hall of Fame game, but then having 5 Steelers inducted into the Hall of Fame this weekend. How did you feel about it? How did the speeches sound to you? Who are you starting off with?
For me, I got to start off with my man, Alan Faneca. It's my favorite player ever, so I got to start off with him. His speech was impactful. I mean, they all were. They're all great in their own rights, but just him talking about his struggles with epilepsy and just how that didn't bother him and that didn't stop him from getting where he wanted in his career and life. And he just, it was awesome. Like, if you didn't shed any tears watching any of these speeches from Coward, Troy to Donnie Shell, Stefanicas, geez Louise. And don't forget Nunn as well. It was just a great weekend, man. But for sure, I got to start off with Faneca. I mean, that was awesome, man. I had some people messaging me. They're like, "Did you think Troy could talk that well and like the big words Troy was using?" I think Troy made it a statement that he may have been quiet on the field, but he has plenty of knowledge. And man, his speech was awesome, and just the way he talked about the black and gold.
Yes,
my favorite part of that was to gain the respect of players before you, and if they said you can play with us. That just showed how big he loved the Steelers. And same thing with Faneca's speech, too. He was like, thank you for the Jets and Cardinals, but Steeler Nation, baby, you know what it meant for all these guys that got put in, Cowher included, family. They all these
players, family. That was it. All of them said family at one point or another in that speech.
Yep.
Cowher said it. Yeah.
It's awesome. I wish I was there. It just, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go to Canton. I was there 2 years ago. Can't wait to go back now, man. Added all those Steelers, and I can't wait.
Yeah, well, but what a great weekend just to be there, and like Bill Nunn also, like obviously he was posthumously put in, couldn't really do a speech, but it's still freaking incredible that 5 Steelers got recognized this past weekend. Bill Cowher as well. It's just such a fun time, and you saw all those terrible towels waving in Canton, Ohio. You could tell the reactions when the Steelers got on the podium. They felt like they were back in Pittsburgh for one last final game, and you can tell like Bill Cowher was visually emotional watching the Steeler faithful saying, spinning the towels. Here we go, Steelers. It was really just awesome to see as a fan, as a terrible towel waver myself, that, it just how impactful it is and how close it is to Pittsburgh. Canton's just right down the road. It's a fun trip for Steeler fans, and there's a ton of Steeler fans right there in Ohio as well.
Yeah, and it was probably one of my favorite parts of Cowher's speech was literally when he mentioned how Troy and Faneca and 2 guys he drafted going in the same day as him. That's wild. It's just really crazy. 2 guys you drafted, and the more and more you think about it, guys that we're talking about that will be in here future. Figure Hines hopefully gets in there one of these days. He deserves to be in there as well. Figure you got Ben. They talked very highly of Tomlin. I feel like I heard Tomlin's name twice.
Yeah. And Colt, Cowher already pretty much said in his speech that Tomlin's already a Hall of Famer, alluded to, the next Hall of Famer, and just passing down the torch to the next Hall of Fame. And that was a nice allusion to what Tomlin has already accomplished right now. Second most wins all time, this point of his career, to second only to Marty Schottenheimer, who also should be in the Hall, who Cowher referenced, Cowher is from the Schottenheimer tree as well. So just an excellent, just football knowledge just raining down upon you from all over the place. And there were good speeches all around too. I enjoyed Jimmy Johnson's, even though he's a Dallas Cowboy and he beat the Steelers in a Super Bowl. But you got to respect the guy for what he put together. He built a team out of a crap franchise and built a powerhouse, the three-peat champions. So, you got to give credit where credit's due. I just wish we could have stolen one of those from him.
I just wish the speeches were a little bit longer too. I feel like it's like a shame to cut Again, Troy's not a long talker. Same thing with Faneca.
Yeah.
Cowers could have been a little bit longer also, but Peyton Manning, like that would have been wild to see him. He could have talked for like 20 minutes. So I think it's a shame that they have these guys on a time limit here with 9 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think they should have made some exceptions. Like again, you're going into a fraternity. These guys should be able to talk about their careers. Peyton said, I don't have 10 minutes to talk about my career.
Right.
So I just loved all the speeches.
But man. I mean, they were trying to do the thanks too, like in the underneath ticker, so you didn't have to thank everybody. So like I saw that going across, and like when Bill Cowers went across, I'm like, holy crap! It's every single player that Bill Cowher went with, because I'm like Amos Zaraway. They got freaking Josh Miller, the punter, on there. I'm like, hell yeah, Cowher.
See, I didn't see the ticker and everything.
Yeah, it was going across the bottom of the screen live. Like that, Bill Cowher thanks all these people just so he doesn't have to do it for every single one. But every single player that played for him, I think, was on that ticker.
I just love seeing the Steelers players there. Also, guys, just they're representing Faneca. I know the offensive line was all there. Same thing with Troy. I saw Ike, Harrison, all those guys there.
Right.
So it's awesome to see all of them there.
And man. Porter, like
Joe too.
I think Porter's going to be a Hall of Famer. I think he deserves to be in the Hall, not only for the work he did in Pittsburgh, but the work he did in Miami. He killed it in Miami for 3 more years after he left Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and Harrison too, man. Harrison's great, man. So I know a little sour at the end there with the way stuff handled at moments, but
yeah. But Harris is like Lloyd. Too. They were like the best outside linebackers in the league for like 5 years. So it's tough to get in when you're an all-time great for a short period of time, unless you're like Terrell Davis running for Denver Broncos. That's like the only one that I know of that got in like off of a 5-year like window career that had just an awesome 5 years. But we'll have to see, like aside from like the original players where they could just get in just from playing back then in the day, if they were really good players. Because stats weren't as important back then, and it was a young league, and you're like, hey, I remember that guy. Let's put him in the Hall. Okay. So moving on, I guess I just want to touch base quickly on the game. I went on and I jumped on and did a Q&A. I remember talking with you about it because I wanted you to join me on it because it's your idea. It's fun to get up on after these games and talk to Steeler Nation.
Sure.
Steeler Nation had a ton to say after the game. So Steeler Nation, thank you so much for joining me after the Hall of Fame game against the Dallas Cowboys. We covered everything, the entire game, punters. I mean, I'm excited for it. Look at me, like I say, I'm built like a punter. That's why punters excite me so much. Hey, I could play in the league. Yeah.
I told my dad we're at the Guns N' Roses concert. Otherwise, I would have jumped down with you.
Right? Yeah. How was the concert?
It was great.
So Axl Rose was there as well.
Yeah.
And Slash. So they got back together.
Oh, they were rocking.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Yeah, otherwise I would have jumped down with you. I'm like, I was telling my dad, I'm like, the MVP of the game was Presley Harvin. I'm like, he was disgusting. Right. I'm like, Dad, this is great. We got a steal here at this pick. Like,
it was the sickest game I've seen in my life from a Steeler punter. His first game ever in a preseason game. 4 incredible punts, 4 completely different punts, done completely different ways with completely different strategies. All 4 were huge successes. And I'm psyched. Like I screamed. I actually the only time I screamed the entire first half was the punt that they downed at the 1 yard line with the backwards kick. I was like out of my seat. I was like, yes.
I couldn't say the last time I've seen a punt at the 1. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, we get close with Barry a couple times because he has that Aussie roll, but like his hit the 1, but they don't stick. They tend to still go forward just a little bit, but he still does a good job. I mean, I love his. I can't diss the Aussie roll because that's what it's for.
That's your guy. You love the Aussie. You love.
I do. Aussie. Oi. Get Energizer. Oi. Right. Back in black. AC/DC. Oi. There we go.
Oi. Oh my gosh. But yeah. When I watched the highlights of the game, people hammer Mason. It's the first game. You're not going out and seeing him throwing 40-yard bombs every single play. That's not how preseason works.
Yeah.
Same thing with Haskins. He had that one shot play. That was kind of it. Otherwise, it was kind of just seeing the field, getting pressures, getting the ball out of his hands. We didn't see any mistakes out of those guys. Would we have liked to see them play better? Sure. So I'm excited to see Haskins and those guys Thursday. So I'm going to the game in Philly. So, no Steelers attire needed for that one because – yeah, it's not gonna be a fun time dealing with the Eagles fans with that. But
right, yeah, and that's a great. So you're going to the Eagles preseason game in Philly. I used to live in Philly for 13 years, and it seems every other year they used to rotate and go back, and I used to go to the ones in Philly. Philly is the only freaking place on the planet where you will go to a preseason game and you will get harassed by their fans.
I'm not dealing with that.
I was in the upper level sitting there watching a preseason game and somebody's throwing peanuts at me from behind.
I'm not dealing with it.
And I'm like, I turn around, I'm like, it's a freaking preseason game, you Nimrod.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It
doesn't matter. And then I caught a peanut and ate it, and they thought it was freaking hilarious. So.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with that, but yeah, I'm excited to see those guys play Thursday.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, man. It's preseason football. You get to see guys that you don't really expect to see in the regular season. You hope you don't see, but you see the guys that are going to take over hopefully in the future. You saw Highsmith do it last season. He played that first game, had that spin move sack. So he's getting the reps in without playing too much.
And I'll tell you that this game, you had so many different outside linebackers making plays in that game. Besides Marsh looked awesome. Like he looked great. Like a lot of people were crapping on him for last year. Yeah, he didn't get in the full thing. He looks like a completely different human being out there. He had a great pressure. He had a forced fumble, a sack fumble on another play, but he also met Highsmith in the backfield at the quarterback on his sack. So, I mean, he was getting good pressure, playing the line, playing the run, doing his job. So like that was an improvement we weren't expecting as Steeler fans, like going out and getting Irving. We're like, yes, we got a guy who can help contribute. Marsh is contributing. Marsh is now making it so like Roche made a sack. Roche was unblockable in that game. And then Jones gets a sack too. Sixth guy on the depth chart at outside linebacker. So like this feels to me this year the deepest our outside linebackers have ever been. Because usually we're going into seasons where we might be 3, maybe 4 deep. I felt we were 3 deep last year with Ola Adeniyi. But he even didn't have that great of a year last year with Highsmith too. I mean, Highsmith like I was really excited for Highsmith too. So we were 4 deep last year, really, 3.
Really 3 deep.
but at least 4 going into the season. But I'm comfortable with 6 so far. Like I know Jones like lower competition. Roche just like looks to me like he has it. He reminds me of watching old Joey Porter, old Harrison in preseason games.
We drafted him. I said his tape looked good for looked great at Temple. He looked great at the U.
Yeah.
So it tells you something. And if we see, the thing is, it was 1 game. Yeah. So we'll see what happens the next few games. They got 4, unlike a lot of teams. So they'll get their first crack here and see how it looks the rest of the season, preseason for these guys.
And Colton, we got a quick question over here from Brian Brown off of YouTube. He's asking, do you think any Steelers will make the Hall of Fame next year? And if so, who?
There's no Steelers that are eligible that come up next year that are like right to your mind. Right off.
The only ones, the only ones for me that would be borderline would be, I mean, Hines Ward is making finalist spots. The other one now that might have a legitimate chance here, Brian, I think is LC Greenwood getting in as a historical player. And the reason why he is starting to shoot up in people's minds for making the Hall of Fame now is they finally tracked the stat of sacks in the 70s. And he led all of the Steeler curtain in sacks for all of the 70s. He was the sack machine of the Steeler curtain, never got recognized for. I mean, people that watched it knew he was a Hall of Fame player. I mean, and the fact that he didn't get in already, it seems asinine. Yeah, I mean, that was a Hall of Fame defense. That whole defense, like arguably, it looks like eight of those guys are going to be Hall of Famers. But yeah, you've got to put LC Greenwood in the Hall now that the sack numbers have come out for the 70s and have solidified and shown everybody what kind of guy this was. Over 70 some sacks, 76 I think, something like that. And that's in an era where people weren't throwing the damn football.
Yep,
that's a running era. So I mean, you're not getting 100 sacks back then.
No.
So you got to put a guy like that in the Hall, and I think he'll get it.
Well, now that they see the numbers, for some reason they love seeing numbers. I don't know why. Just look at the impact of the player. You don't need numbers to put someone in the Hall. I hate when it's like, oh, look at his numbers when they do the Eli Manning stuff, and it's like, he's a Hall of Famer, folks. I don't know what to tell you. These guys are Hall of Famers. So just because his numbers don't stand out, it doesn't mean he's not a Hall of Famer. Look at the impact he had, and clearly he was an impact player for the Steel Curtain. So
agreed.
And Hines is another one, like you said.
Yeah, Hines changed the game.
Yes,
he changed the game. He made defenses afraid of going up against another team's wide receiver. Every time we played the Ravens, they're like he got voted dirtiest player in the league a couple years in a row. Why? Because he's decleating and targeting not just defensive backs. He's decleating linebackers. Inside line, was it Sharper?
Yeah.
Freaking got annihilated over the middle by Hines Ward, smiling over top of him, breaking the jaw of Rivers, the linebacker on the crackback block, which became illegal moving forward because of how badly he damaged Rivers in that game and knew that he broke his jaw immediately. Called the sideline.
You know how impactful he is. Literally the first words out of Troy's mouth pretty much were when he talked about getting in the NFL was Hines Ward hitting him.
Yes.
So that's why the guy was that impactful. And the fact that you heard two, I don't know if Kyra said anything about Hines getting in the hall, but Faneca and Troy saying you'll be up here with me.
Yeah.
He deserves to be up there. Will he be up there in like the next 3 years? I don't think so. He's gonna be one of those like what's his name from Dallas that just got in. He should have been in a while ago. Forget his name. He would have just went in this year. Drew Pearson. He's gonna be like that. I feel like with Hines, it's not right.
Yeah,
he should be in. It's like we'll wait. You shouldn't be in this soon. You don't know how long these guys are gonna live. You don't know with life.
Yeah,
these guys deserve to be in.
Yeah.
So if he deserves to be in, why are we waiting 7 years to put him in?
Right.
So same thing with Drew Pearson. They waited Drew Pearson for a while. T.O. should have been the first year. I hate the way some of the goes with the Hall.
Yeah. T.O. was that whole. I mean, you got to be voted in, and he pissed off a lot of media.
Yeah.
And then, of course, since he didn't get in on his first, he didn't even show up to be inducted. So,
Yeah. Again, I don't disagree with you, but the fact that he wasn't first in and Megatron was this year, that's what makes me scratch my head. T.O. was such a good receiver.
He was a great receiver.
What is he, second all-time in receiving yards?
Is he?
I think he's second. I think he's behind Jerry. He's behind. I think that's it. He's second. If you're looking it up now, I think he's second. Like, how is he not first ballot? How is he not? I get he was
Larry Fitzgerald passed him. He's now third.
He's third?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's there.
But he is. Yeah. But probably when he retired, he was definitely ahead of Larry Fitzgerald because he retired.
How is he not first? Yeah. How is he not first ballot is my point. I get he was a lunatic and said a bunch of stupid stuff, but you got to put some of that aside. But that's how it is, I feel like, with every Hall of Fame, to be honest. They always have those like weird votes where it's like, I'm not going to give this guy first dibs. And
right. There's a lot of that with the voting, but there's a lot of politics with the voting.
Yes, there is.
But it is what it is. And we're going to have some questions. We're going to get to your question, Mark, at the end, because we're going to be talking about the offensive line here coming up. But guys, still keep stowing your questions. Let us know what's going on. And we're going to talk about a couple new Steelers joining the team now. We just had a new running back joining the team, Pete Guerrero. Yep. Guerrero. We'll just call him Pete. But he played at Monmouth's all-time leading rusher. Guy seems to be just a rocket out of the backfield, fast as hell. So I don't know if Snell or Balaj is too hurt to practice right now. It sounded like today Snell was cutting pretty hard today, so he should be close to being back. I haven't heard too much on Balaj yet, but Monmouth all-time leading rusher Pete Guerrero coming in and also stepping in a little bit on punt return.
Yeah, Jersey man comes in, Monmouth boy. So it's just hard. There's so many. We already talked about going into this preseason and when he gets the cuts at running back that there's a lot of competition in the running back room right now. So why not add another one in here, see what happens? Because we don't need a guy getting hurt in punt return, even though I do believe our guy is Ray McLeod.
Yeah. Yes.
So I love what we talked about it last year. I loved what he did until he lost that confidence.
Right.
So I think that is our guy. Hopefully he keeps that confidence up.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come back fresh with that fresh appeal. I hope he doesn't change and just revert to being Mr. Hyde as opposed to crazy ass Dr. Jekyll on the field. That's what I like to say.
He was great. It was until he fumbled that ball and then like against the Ravens, and then like he was very like scared to do anything for some reason.
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's just like you hate to say stuff like those moves, like, it doesn't really make me excited because the room is so deep. Unless we see something crazy from him in preseason where it's like, okay, This guy's got something. So he really is with the Jets. I don't really think there was anything much of that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
In fact, the Jets running back room was very light last year. So
yeah.
Makes me think he could have got some playing time and he really didn't. So
the Jets running back was light last year when they had Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. That guy's good. I like that Le'Veon Bell guy. Why don't the Steelers pick up Le'Veon Bell? Oh, where's the Le'Veon Bell going?
Oh my God.
We're not getting Le'Veon Bell, people. Yinzers, we ain't getting Le'Veon Bell.
No, we don't need Le'Veon Bell.
We've got like 3 guys on the roster right now better than him at passing and catching. I'd take Bellagio over him. I'll take McFarland over him. Hell, I'll take J-Sam over him right now. But
yeah, he's lost it. I don't know if he's gonna be in the league. I really don't, unless someone loses a running back and it's like, why not give him a shot here, see what he's got? But
somebody may take a flyer on him, but you have a guy in the league right now that's already taken a dump on Mike Tomlin and Andy Reid, 2 of the best coaches.
2 Hall of Famers. You took a shot at 2 Hall of Famers.
2 Hall of Fame coaches in the NFL. You just took a dump on. You think he's going to play for you? You think he's going to talk nice to you on his way out the door, or when he's done, or when he's not getting yardage? No. Yeah, it makes it very difficult to bring a guy like that into a running back room. Yeah, no, sure. I agree. I agree. So a couple other extra pickups that have happened here in the last couple days. I know DeMarcus Acey and Anthony Coyle were placed on the injured wave list last week on the 4th. Steelers signed defensive back Lafayette Pitts. Haven't heard too much about him in training camp yet. I do know Pete Guerrero got some rushes today. He ripped off a 14-yard rush, according to Alex Kozora, who is awesome. Training camp diary over on the Depot. The guy is like I say, he's a treasure for Steeler Nation. If you want news to know exactly what's going on in training camp, there's no better read than Alex Kozora's training camp diary. Honestly, got to read it. We also signed guard Malcolm Pridgeon today and waived injured defensive lineman Calvin Taylor, who's been hurt for a bit. I had him tracked on the injury list for quite some time. So a little bit of motion around. Like I said, injury wise right now, we're starting to get fairly healthy. Ray McLeod is out with a right leg. James Washington just hurt his right leg yesterday in practice, so he was held out again today. Kellen Ballage has been hurt with the lower body since the Hall of Fame game. Hasn't really seen anything from him. Antoine Brooks also has a left leg injury. And Stephen Tuitt, we don't really know if he's injured. We don't really know if he's still dealing with, the stuff with wasn't his brother that died earlier this year with the hit and run. So, mental headspace, letting him ease back into it. I don't know exactly what's going on, but the Steelers are a family organization. They're going to take everything mental and physical health into account before letting somebody come back. Benny Snell, though, he's been out for a while. Today he was seen cutting and running hard, so it looks like he's pretty close to returning. And then I want to talk about TJ Watt, because everybody else is good. Everybody else is back in practice, but including Kevin Dotson, guys. A lot of you guys on Steeler Nation still like losing your crap about Kevin Dotson. A lot of people saying, oh, he's going to be a second stringer. He's not good, or he's taking a back step. Coaches hate him. Today was his first practice. Today was his first full practice. And anybody want to argue with me about him taking second string reps in his first full practice can go ahead, but I'll make a monetary bet with anybody that wants to take it. I will take all bets that he will be starting week 1 in the NFL. There's no way he will not be the starter at left guard, in my opinion, unless he's hurt.
He was even announced on the depth chart. He's the starting left guard. So
right, yeah, that was the new. Exactly, great point, because the new depth chart just came out today and had Dotson listed as the starter. You're right.
The starter. There's no reason for him not to be. Could there have been stuff that they weren't happy with him, and now this made it look like even more true? Like, oh, this is true. Stop. The guy's been banged up. Like, Tom was like, yeah, he's awful. Like, and then all of a sudden comes out today he's a starter. Like, stop. You guys, like.
Yeah, and that's what felt like to me, like, too, it was less of Tomlin throwing shade at a player because it's something he doesn't do. But he's more like throwing shade at the reporters, like, how are you going to be on first string if you're not practicing? Because he hasn't practiced yet. This is his first practice was today.
I think it might have been a shot at like a reporter. Even like Kate said, like, do your job, like do some of your reporting stuff. Like, I've been hurt. Like, I'm not going to walk right in camp. Like, yeah, you're starter now. Like, you got to get back into the ease of thing, especially in camp. So
the one thing I wanted to talk about Malcolm Pridgeon. He was an old OSU player and used to play with Haskins. He took 2020 off because of COVID reasons, but the guy is a high level player. Wasn't drafted, so it'll be interesting to see if he can show anything and maybe stick on the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, figure Ohio State does pump out some offensive line. The Big Ten,
right?
Yeah. So it doesn't hurt to take a shot, especially with a guy Haskins familiar with, because who knows if he's the future or not. We'll see. So it doesn't hurt bringing a guy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Dotson to start. How you doing, Kenny Beamer over there on YouTube? Good to see you as well. Ray is awesome. Mark, thank you. Yep. Good to see you as well. And we're with you, Job. Yeah, the LC Greenwood should be in the hall. Next thing I wanted to talk about, and it's something that's not really being reported on, maybe a little bit, but TJ Watt. I mean, he's in camp. He's doing his workouts, some light stuff, but he's not taking part in any of the practices between the whistles. And what we're seeing here, in my opinion, is the first soft holdout in Pittsburgh Steelers history. We have a player that is waiting for a new contract, completely healthy, does not want to get injured, does not want to put himself at risk until he is able to sign that contract and able to go. As soon as he gets that ink and it dries on the page, you'll see TJ Watt back out there in the field. But to me, this was really interesting to see a player that's still, quote unquote, you can see this in the vidcast, holding out by being at camp. And that, to me, that's a team first mentality that shows you the correct way to deal with a holdout, to still be part of it, to still know what's actively going on, what strategies and schemes are being implemented, so you know what's going on, but still just not putting yourself at risk until you're finally signed.
Nice, staying in shape. He's been working out. If anyone's paid attention, it's like you said, it's the correct thing to do. He's around the team still, so he's not thinking about himself, but he is to an extent, because as anyone would, you're not going to go out there, go balls to the wall, and God forbid get hurt, and then you're screwed of a contract where it's like you got to wait a year to get paid. And the Steelers are going to take care of him. So there's probably some little minor tweaks going on with this contract, what they're going to do with it. He's going to get signed. There's no way the Steelers are going to play around with this. And the fact that they're going all in, they need TJ Watt. Don't freak out about it, but he's doing it the right way, like you said. I love TJ Watt for a reason, and this fan base loves him for a reason. And he's shown how to be a true professional, hang around their team, and just not put himself at risk. Keith Butler, I believe, came out and said, I don't blame him at all. I'm he's doing the right thing. So, if you were to ask any players on the roster, I think they would 100% agree. We saw the same thing with Le'Veon Bell. Let him get his bag. They're all like, pay them in.
Yeah.
He's doing it the right way. He's in camp. He's there. He's a presence. He's teaching guys still, like you said, he's there. It's just a soft holdout. So I love him for a reason, man.
And I hope this sets a tone for holdouts in the future too, because TJ Watt has now set the standard for what you should do during a holdout. Keep complete open communication, stay involved with the team. Don't create a divide, because he's a team leader. And that's, to me, like anybody else in the future, Minka Fitzpatrick, keep your ears open for that. He's the only person I think that's even close to would be put in a holdout situation right now at this point, because he's definitely not being paid his worth yet, but hopefully he will. And hopefully the Steelers will be making him a very rich contract here soon.
Steelers take care of their guys, man. Look at the history. They know, like, figure they chose Antonio Brown over Mike Wallace.
Yep.
That was the correct decision.
Yep.
Maybe towards the end, was it not the correct decision? Sure. But at that moment in time, absolutely was. He was clearly the better receiver than Mike Wallace. They were smart with the Le'Veon Bell. They tried paying him, but they don't guarantee money. And I don't disagree with them. And they made the correct choice. He hasn't been good anywhere he's gone.
Yep.
So the organization makes the right decisions, and they pay their players. TJ getting paid. Don't overreact, Steeler Nation. We're fine. He's doing the right thing. I love him for a reason.
So I want to touch base on this depth chart a little bit, just going over it from SteelerNation.com or Steelers.com, the mothership. So over at Steelers.com, like we said, pretty much there's no big surprises on offense except for one. And the one surprise still has at center J.C. Hassenauer over Kendrick Green, which, every single snap that I've seen in training camp, every single snap in the whole first half of the game last week, it was all Kendrick Green taking the team 1 reps. JC Hassenauer is still playing. He's still on the field. And he played the whole second half of the last game, but he's taking second team reps in practice. So that's one that we may see a shift here from Kendrick Green and from JC Hassenauer to Kendrick Green being the starter sooner rather than later. But yeah, other than that, that's like the only big thing that shoots off the page for me. Everybody else starting wise, like even having inside linebacker Spillane being there with Bush, I think that's pretty much going to be it starting off. Yeah, no other big surprises. It looks like you're keeping Cameron Sutton as the outside right cornerback and Antoine Brooks Jr. as the slot, the nickel corner for starting ahead of Arthur Mallett. We'll have to see if that shifts moving on. We'll have to see if somebody else can pull from Arthur Mallett. He had a tough game his first game. Hopefully he can improve. Obviously, I like Brooks. Then the other one, the last thing I got to talk about is special teams. Still listing Jordan Berry above PH3, or as one of our awesome Steeler fans, I forget her name from Facebook during the Q&A after the game, dubbed him Biggest Kickus. And that's the best nickname, in my opinion, for Presley Harvin III.
That is great. Yeah. Well, I've seen stuff where reports of Ben and Kendrick Green doing I don't know if it was after practice or whatever it was, they were just pounding out snaps and it was perfect.
Wow.
They were great. Wow. So I do think that's going to be your change. I think they're going to get him under center here, and I think that's going to be their guy going forward, and that might be their next 53 for the next 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, right. And that's crazy because thinking about their last couple centers, I think they picked them both as first rounders. Webster was a first rounder. Was Dermetti Dawson a first rounder?
I don't know.
I have to look that up, but I definitely know Pouncey was a first rounder. Oh, no. Webster was not a first rounder because he was the 74 draft. He went in like the second or third round. And a four. Yeah, I know maybe it's a fourth, but he's one of the Hall of Famers from the 74. So he definitely was not a first rounder. I'm going to just
I'm looking it up for you.
Butcher Dermetti Dawson's spelling of his name.
Second round pick.
Yep. Okay, then I'm fine with that because Kendrick Green was a third rounder, and then that would make Mike Webster
third, I think. Second or third, you said.
Fifth round pick. That's right.
We're awful.
Yeah, because first two were receivers. I think that was I remember one of them didn't hit, but it was our first one was Swan, second would have been Lambert, third would have been third or fourth, because we missed on one. We missed on either third or the fourth round by not getting a Hall of Famer. Stallworth.
Wasn't Stallworth in that draft too?
Yeah, Stallworth was in that draft. That was Stallworth, Swan, Webster, and Lambert being drafted, and Shell is an undrafted rookie free agent, all in that draft.
It's kind of nuts, isn't it?
Crazy. And that's when like drafts are like 18 rounds long. So like undrafted, 18 rounds long, pick up a guy undrafted, makes the team, becomes a Hall of Famer. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I do think Kendrick Green is going to be that starter. I think that's going to be your change.
Right.
Before week one, and clearly Presley Harvin. I think he's going to get the nod. How do you think they're going to do the next game? How do you think they're doing Philly? You didn't see any Jordan Berry that first one. You think they're switching here? What do you think they're going to do with that? Like, or is he the whole game too? Like, what do you?
No, I don't think Jordan Berry will get a whole game because the reason why is the Steelers wanted to see what they had in this kicker because he's a draft pick, 7th rounder. Let's throw him out there and see what he does. And what he did was short of perfection, like absolutely perfect. It is perfection. It's perfection for a punter. He had a perfect punting game, in my opinion. I forgot to see if that first snap was his problem on the missed kick, but the other one that Sloman boned on his own, like the extra point was like just a crap kick. Like the snap was down perfect, but I forgot to watch the first one or watch the replay of that first snap on the missed field goal. But holding is a big part of that job too. And as long as he can hold that football as well as Berry, and he's a bigger frame, he can go up and get the ball higher than Berry can. So, it'll be, that's really the only difference you'd have between the kickers, because Steelers have been looking and giving Berry big competition these last couple of years in camp. Berry won out, 2 and 3 years ago. Last year, he lost out to Colquitt. And then Colquitt sucked, and they brought Berry back. They're like, okay, we made the mistake that time. Our bad. Barry, ring, Barry. Yeah, it's the Steelers. Yeah, remember when we replaced you with the son of a bad punter on the Steelers 70s team? Because nobody could kick in the 70s. Everyone in the 70s sucked. Like, oh, we got the Colquitt, bro. We got the son of Colquitt out there kicking. Go Yinzers, here we go. And then, of course, he kicked like his dad because they can only kick like 30 yards back then, 40 yards.
Bad, man.
But
did he get picked up again by the Chiefs, though? He did. I think it was in the Super Bowl last year.
Oh, shit. Yeah. But still, I mean, good, not great. But still, brought Barry back. But now it's like, if it's close, I was saying it since they drafted Percy Harvin. I said, if the competition is close, they're going to go with Percy Harvin just because of the value they're going to be saving on the salary cap. Going to be saving $1 million. So that's a no-brainer. And right now, I'd say he's ahead. He's got a stronger leg. He's got a higher hang time, and he's making every kick. He had a coffin kick at the 1. He had a directional sideline kick out of bounds at the 11. He had a high, just like bomber drop at the 11, 10-yard line with 3 Steeler gunners there. And then you had the low liner that bounced. That was a forward roll kick that hits the ground and bounces right off the return. That was gorgeous. I mean, I don't know if it was a miss kick, but it's still like the result ended up being amazing. Because it didn't obviously go as high as far as what he's expecting, but to have that forward roll just hit him, and you could tell the strength of his leg because it hit that punt returner hard when it bounced off of him. Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, I think he's another chance. I think you're going to see 2 changes by camp, unless someone takes other positions, by the wheel. So I think those 2 are probably changes you might see by week 1.
Nice. And Kenny called it. Yeah, he thought Brooks would be the starter too. And yes, Mark, you're right. The defense has to stop the run. And Blake, I'll get to your question here in a little bit. We'll talk about that soon. He's got a question on Washington. Thank you very much. Carlos Goncalves chiming in from Venezuela, our Venezuelan Steeler Nation faithful person. Lead us over at SteelerNation.com. Hello, Steeler Nation. Kudos to Stryker. Post-game podcast was great. Awesome. We're going to be doing that a lot, Carlos. Going to be doing that a lot. So everybody tune in on all of our channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're going live after the game every week. I usually put out something just before the game quick, just to go over the game quickly and then just highlight the fact that we're going to be talking after the game. And that was a lot of fun last week. I think I was on for like 45 minutes. It was a blast. Absolute blast. I was jazzed.
I love the post-game stuff. That's where people go. Where do people go to vent? Is social media.
Exactly.
Why not join on the live stream, drop the questions, whether it's good or bad? Why not?
All right. Now we got some tough decisions here at a couple positions. And I want to go over this with you, Colton. We've got a lot of running backs, probably only going to keep about 4 or 5 of these running backs. Obviously, Harris seems to be a lock. Seems like McFarland is going to be a lock as well. Now it comes down to Snell, Balaj, Jalen Samuels, and Guerrero. And now that the new guy being Guerrero jumping on the team as well. And we also have that Brooks Jones, I think is another running back
too.
Yeah. So we've got probably 3 more of those guys out of Snell, Balaj, J. Sam, Guerrero, Brooks Jones. Who would you keep out of those 3?
I think Kalen Balaj is one for sure, especially with the pass catching ability. I think that's guaranteed. You saw how explosive he was, I believe, for the Chargers last year, filming for Austin Eckler.
Good call.
So I think he's a lock as well. I think
also seems to be our best blocker for pass rush, for pass defense, to being that extra blocker in the backfield on the blitzes. So that's a big part of his game.
Sure. Unless Benny Snell has to have a good camp and a good preseason. He has to.
Yeah.
Or he might get left off. And we love Benny Snell. We love Benny Snell football. But the pass catching ability is huge in the NFL nowadays. So I can see that being a factor in when he gets cut. And Jalen Samuels, he was so good 2 years ago. And ever since he's like, is he still on the roster? It's like, he is. What's going on with him? And I think he might be a casualty, especially with bringing in Kalen Balaj. So
yeah, I got to agree with you, Colton, because I'm a big J-Sam guy. Loved him in college. He came out. I thought he was going to be a slot receiver. He had so many receptions in college. But the guy just seems a little bit slower this year. He can't get to the edge like he used to. He's not as quick in short area quickness after he catches the ball or gets in space anymore. And he seems to be going down kind of easy. So I don't know if he's dealing with a lower body injury or just trying to play through it. But right now, he just does not look like the same player that we saw the previous 2 seasons.
No, I think he might be one of those also. So,
all right. So now we've got a tough position. And this is a position that we usually only keep 4 players. And that's outside linebacker. And like I said earlier, I think it's 6 deep. We got Watt and Highsmith locks. Irving is probably a lock just because we brought him in. Marsh, we thought was going to be on the fence, but now it looks like Marsh, Roche, and Jones. Who do you keep out of those 3? You can keep one.
It's going to go probably Roche. That's their draft pick. I think Roche, especially so far he's looked good. So I think that plays into a factor. That's their draft pick. I think he's got a lot of upside. I was huge on him on draft day. I think Roche might get that nod. So, and then Melvin Ingram clearly is there. So it's probably Roche, unless they make it, something different. They keep Cassius Marsh. I think
that's where I'm like, this is an apples and oranges thing. That's a 4A, 4B situation. And I've got to lean, like, as much as I was down on Cassius Marsh last year, this year, he's looking like a new man. And I've got the edge to Marsh right now over Roche. And it'll be interesting to see if this year the Steelers choose to go 5 outside linebackers and 4 inside linebackers instead of 4 outside linebackers and 5 inside linebackers like they usually do, because now we've got to talk about the inside linebackers here. And we obviously we're 5 deep with inside linebackers. You've got Bush and Spillane locks at starters. Then you have UG3 and Marcus Allen penciled in as the backups in the 2 spot, and then drafting Buddy Johnson. So out of Ulysses Grant, Marcus Allen, and Buddy Johnson. Did I say Ulysses? It's Ulysses Gilbert.
Yes.
Damn it, I always do that. Ulysses Gilbert, Marcus Allen, and Buddy Johnson. You can keep 2. Who are the 2 you're keeping?
I think Buddy Johnson, again, draft pick.
Wow. Yeah.
I think Gilbert's out. He hasn't been on the field. We always see, like, dude, this guy looks good in camp. He looks good, this, that, and the other. Looks good in practice. He gets banged up a lot. And when you're playing the inside, you're getting in the trenches. You're drilling the running back. You're picking up blocks. I think he's probably the odd man out here, just because he can't see on the field. If he could stay on the field more consistently, he'd probably be a lot, because I think the Steelers like him. But the problem is availability. That's the best part to a team, is a guy that's available. And he's never available when they need him. They needed him last year big time, and he wasn't available. So I think that he's probably the odd man out in this group here.
Nice. Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. I think that is solid reasoning. Now, the last position that I wanted to talk about is defensive line. And defensive line, we usually keep 6. I think we had 7 last year, because the 7 that we had was Hayward, Tuitt, Alu as the starters. Wormley was backing up and then you had Davis and Buggs competing at backup nose tackle, and also someone at an end. And you had Mondo in just about everywhere. I love and at fullback, in at end, in at center, and on kick coverage. The guy was just like, that was a guy that just would not let himself not be on the game day roster. And I really was impressed by that. And that's the reason why Buggs was kind of sitting a lot last year too. And Davis had a couple days on the bench too. But Loudermilk, a new guy into the mix here. So to me, it seems like Wormley, Davis, Mondo, Buggs, and Loudermilk, you got to cut one of them. Like, who are you cutting?
I think it comes down to Buggs and Davis. That's why I think it's kind of easy money. That was the battle last year, and I think it's going to be the battle this year, because unless the kid in camp, the rookies, don't do well, look absolutely horrendous. I'm forgetting the kid they drafted like 2 years ago at edge. They cut him right at.
Yeah. That wasn't he in the 7th round, the Alabama kid? Yeah. Yeah.
They cut him. So unless and he didn't look good in the games, nothing. So if Loudermilk doesn't look good, then it's an easy decision. But they usually give the benefit of the doubt to those rookies that they drafted that they're usually going to hang around Campbell's practice squad. I think Davis and Bugs is your fight. Bugs, again, made a huge play with Lamar Jackson in that game last year. I remember seeing highlights of that, and I think he posted something about it, how big he was on that play on Lamar Jackson's 4th down scramble to try to get a first, and he didn't get it because of Bugs' big play. I think it comes down to him and Davis. I think with that fight you saw last year with those guys on the sideline, I think it gets aggressive in camp this year because these guys are fighting and make this roster.
Nice. And Steeler Nation, it is now time for questions from Steeler Nation. Keep chiming in, getting your questions in. We're going to start rolling down, and I'm toasting you, Steeler Nation. My beer tonight is I'm having a National Bohemian because we had crabs for dinner, and no beer goes better with blue crab than good old Natty Boh. Having a Natty Boh down there in Baltimore, that's what we drink. And when you're in the Baltimore area, you got your Natty Boh right there having a Natty Boh. So cheers, Steeler Nation. That's a Baltimore cheers from you because that's where I am, unfortunately. But from enemy territory, from me to you guys, cheers, Steeler Nation. Thanks for chiming in.
Really? I'm going to have to give that a shot. You say that goes good with crabs. See, I'm going to have to give that a shot.
Oh, perfect. It's well, so does PBR. Like any good light beer going with that Old Bay mixed in with the blue crab and that sweet meat. Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect compliment, honestly.
I'm going to have to give that a shot.
So first question we had in here from Mark Kane, and he was over on Facebook, and he was asking, do you think the offensive line will be good enough this year? Go Steelers.
I think it's going to be better than it was last year. Figure KD gets another year. Again, Zach Banner's back healthy. Hopefully he stays healthy for us this year. Dan Moore looked good too, man. Oh, wow. He looked good in that first preseason game. And then Chooks getting back to his side that he's more comfortable at. I think they're better, and figure you're seeing stuff out of camp in Baltimore that Al doesn't look good. He's just getting beat left and right. Yeah. So I think they're going to be better. Why wouldn't they be worse? Like how they couldn't be as bad as they were last year.
Yeah.
So I think they're better this year, and they're younger.
And Blake with a good question here, and this has been talked about on Steeler Nation as well as with us over in the threads with the writers and contributors. Blake asks from YouTube, what do you guys think of the possibility of Washington getting traded?
Well, Tomlin kind of stomped that one out that Washington hasn't requested a trade. So I don't know if that was maybe the Steelers getting that one out, because I don't think Washington's that kind of guy to go out. So no. I don't know if that's the Steelers. Just like sometimes a team will really say something stupid like that just to get some phone calls where it's like, all right, that's a pretty good deal. I'll take a second for Washington and you know, send him on his way. But at the same time, Washington might be the guy next year. So
he might be. You're right. Yeah. If they don't find a way to re-sign Juju, though, honestly, with all the money they have next year and Juju taking a pay cut this year to stick, I think they're going to find a way to keep Juju next year. I really do.
I'm disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Washington getting traded, it stinks because I think he could be really, really good somewhere else. The problem is he's the fourth best guy. It's a good problem to have when you're the Steelers that he's your fourth best guy.
Yeah.
But he's not a slot guy, so you don't have to worry about him with Juju or Ray. Claypool's more explosive down the field.
Right.
Deontay Johnson's probably their best route runner and overall receiver, in my opinion. It's just really hard to get him in the game. So, and it's one of those, you got to give him a rep or two. Do you want to do that, though? Like, are you taking a Claypool off the field? Are you taking a Juju or Johnson off the field? So it's like, take Ray off. They play two different positions, so it's not easier said than done. It's like, taking Ray off. So it's kind of hard finding a way to fit Washington into the game. Again, if they're going to have the struggles like they did last season with some of the receivers and the drops, then Washington gets in. But it's like, you hopefully don't have that problem this year. So it's just hard finding Washington on the field when he's the fourth best guy, and that's he's probably the second or third best guy on other teams. It's just how deep this receiving core is.
It is. They've been drafting incredibly well, and it's what they've always done too. Steeler Nation. Steelers will always go through a draft, pick up one or two guys, and they do it just to see if somebody sticks, if it adds some depth, and they just always go through every year. And a lot of the times, sometimes they don't stick and sometimes they do stick, but this was a situation where they went bang, 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 win, win, win. It was Juju. Then it was the Washington. Then it was Claypool back to back to back. And you had three great receivers in that run, and then Deontay Johnson, then Claypool. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like 4 years you hit wins in a row, 4 years in a row, you had winning starting caliber receivers. So when Claypool got drafted, obviously that Z receiver became tougher for Washington to keep getting reps because he had a ton of snaps. He just wasn't getting, his yards per snap is abysmal. It's like one of the worst in the league and got a lot of snaps that year. I think his third year, very little production. But you throw Claypool in there, he was instantly getting yardage on very few snaps. So that makes it difficult to get him on the field. And you got to think about that. He's like your second best Z receiver. He's like your second, maybe third best X receiver. Can't really play the slot. So that it's because if DJ goes down, you probably throw Juju over to the left and then just keep Ray in the slot. And it's still, so the only way he's going to find the field is if something happens to Claypool, in my opinion. Plus he doesn't play special teams.
Nope.
He's the only
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for Washington to get game. And it's very easy to like, yo, come call him to New England. You guys have problems drafting receivers. Give us a second round pick. You don't want to trade him there and then he does really well. So it's one of those things like it's very easier said than done trading Washington. And you might not get the value for him. They're like, you don't play him. That tells you all you need to know. We'll give you a fourth round pick. When in reality, you come call and look at Des Bryant. As soon as that news came out, trade for Washington. You can thank me later. That tells you he's good. Washington's good. He's just not good enough when you have this many good receivers from Pittsburgh. That's just the problem. It's not his fault.
Right.
It's his team drafts receivers really well, and the guys in front of him can just do a little bit more than he can.
Yeah, if all of the Baltimore people lament the fact that the Steelers can draft receivers, we lament the fact that they can draft cornerbacks. I mean, it's just they're geared for defense, and they know how to coach up on defense, and they have the right guys for their system. Whereas the Steelers have a marquee quarterback that can always deliver the football and elevates the play of their wide receivers, unlike over on their side of the field where they have a nice running back who throws the football. But they'll take some questions now from Steeler Nation. We had Drink Iron City over at Steeler Nation. We talked about the Dotson comment earlier in the show, so that was one thing that we don't need to get to. He asked Presley Harvin III will be meet our new punter or Barry has staying power. I think we alluded to that too. My vote's Presley's on the team. He's a fan favorite. He's a camp darling. He's going to make the team. Also, Drink Iron City says, I see Alex Highsmith doing a great job. Do you see his season improving, and will he have the stamina needed for a full season?
I think he's going to be really good. He's probably going to be better than next year. Experience. He had the fact that he had that good of a first season compared to guys like Bud Dupree in his first few seasons for sure. He's only going to get better. And the fact that he's learning from, if not the best edge rusher in football in TJ Watt, and he brings in a veteran who's really good and has been really good for a long time in Melvin Ingram.
Right. He's
going to be really good. And the fact that the stamina, it looks like they're pretty deep where they can give him off a snap or two if needed. And he's a young guy. I think he's plenty fine. That's why he's our guy. That's why we love him, man. Love some Highsmith. He's going to be great for the Steelers.
I agree. And this is a situation where I was excited last year watching him flash in preseason games and in regular season games too. And now he's even got a few more pass rush moves. He's gotten a little bit stronger. He's gotten a little bit quicker. A lot of people, like when I was talking to, just had my interview with
Lewis.
Yes. Yeah. Lewis Riddick. And we were talking about, and he said, look out for Highsmith. Highsmith is going to be the breakout player this year. And I agree with him 100%. Yeah, I think he's showing he's putting in the work. He's got TJ that's able to push him, and hopefully they can push each other because TJ and Bud worked awesome the first 10 weeks of the season last year. And, Bud dropping was a big reason that also led to our fact that our defense did not do as good of a job as locking everybody down. And we couldn't keep winning games, but man, and Highsmith was kind of thrust into action too. And he did well. Don't get me wrong, but he made some rookie mistakes too.
My only question that I have that scare me a little bit at times is we do talk about the run game not being well. Bud Dupree was very, very underrated in the run game. So that's what I'm hoping Highsmith can help in that role and somewhat replace him. I don't know if he'll be as good as Bud yet in the second year, but Bud was really, really good. If you go back and watch last season and the year before, he was so fast, getting to the outside of Randall want to get outside.
Right.
Yeah. So
you could not get outside of Bud Dupree if a play was going to the outside. He was always bouncing that guy inside or making that tackle. In the
I just hope he doesn't get caught up inside. I hope he learned a lot watching tape with Bud, what he did and what TJ does.
Yeah.
So, and Melvin coming into, I think that helps. That's my only concern. It's not even really a concern. That's the only question I have regarding Highsmith this year.
Yeah.
I just knew how good Bud was in the run game, and it was really underappreciated because he's an edge rusher. He's not really supposed to be known for making plays in the run game, but he was huge for the Steelers. So I'm hoping Highsmith can fill in that role. But for me, I have no questions about Highsmith. You saw how productive he was year one. He's clearly better year two, and he made a nice mark in the first game. So I'm excited for him.
And I'm with you. Like Bud Dupree has a high ceiling, one of the highest ceilings I've ever seen out of a player. But Alex Highsmith has a high floor, and for a guy coming out of Charlotte, like having a high floor was insane. I was like a 3rd round draft pick, and man, what an impactful player to get. Claypool in the 2nd round, Highsmith in the 3rd round, and a draft where he did not have a 1st rounder. Just that kind of talent dropped to us. It was freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing.
People question that pick, like, oh, he's from
Charlotte. And then the 4th round was McFarland and Dotson. Gosh, what a draft.
Yeah, they had a great draft last year. But what really drove me nuts were people like, he's from Charlotte, played nobody. He dominated Clemson. Dominated them.
Yes.
So let's not act silly about that. Go back and watch the Clemson tape. He absolutely dominated Clemson. So I knew from day one this dude was going to be disgusting. And he did well above what I thought, especially when he was thrown out there. And, again, he's only going to get better. And good luck, folks. We're going to have a nice tandem here, hopefully, for the next 10 years with him and TJ, hopefully.
Nice. I'm going over to YouTube comments over here. Kenneth Beamer. Kenny, tell me too, write me back here. I want to know which handle you are on SteelerNation.com because I know you, but I don't know your handle. I haven't equated which handle you are yet. How are we feeling about Cam Sutton on the outside? I love it. I just hope they leave him there. Colton, your thoughts?
Yeah, he's really good in coverage. I like the way he is in coverage. He looked really good in the slot at times in coverage. I thought he was a better cover guy than Mike Hilton. Again, people just thought he was just a blitzer. No, Mike Hilton was actually pretty decent in coverage as well. But I think Sutton sliding outside, it's what he's wanted, and he's going to go up. And I think he'll be a good tandem with him and Joe Hayden and Desir. I think he'd be really good as another guy that could step in if, give Joe a blow or give Sutton a blow. I think Sutton's going to be just fine outside. We'll see what happens. It's his time to shine. Let's go. Let's see what you got.
That sounds sexy. Phrasing. Yeah, but I'm with you. Aside from the fellatio, I'm definitely down with his ability to be able to contribute and step up on the outside. Even though he's 5'11", he plays bigger than his size, to tell you the truth. He's very good at attacking the football, making sure he's getting his hands in there and driving to the ball.
His wingspan's pretty big. I think that's what gives him an advantage. I think he's got really long.
Wow.
I saw him make a play last year or the year before. I'm like, dude, this guy's got huge arms.
Right.
It reminds me of the one dude from the Lakers. I'm like, dude, his arms are ginormous. I think that's what also allows him to play the outside. He can hand check if he has to, and he can get his hand in there if someone's a little bit ahead of him. So I think he's gonna be good. He showed sparks in coverage last year for them. I think he's gonna be just fine.
I think the only way that Cam Sutton goes back to the slot is not because the slot is playing poorly, but it's because somebody on the outside is playing so well, they take it from him. And that would be Pierre, would be the only person that I could think of that would be able to push Sutton back into the middle, because we just can't deny Pierre from playing and being on the field, being a taller cornerback, being 6'2", nearly 6'2", I guess, right on the outside of the field. And I know the Steelers have always trying to find those speedy, rangy, taller outside cornerbacks, and he is their prototype for what they like an Ike Taylor type body. And one that they kind of developed from lower in the draft. And I guess was he undrafted or was he actually drafted? I can't remember.
I think he might've been undrafted.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of his name in the draft. I just can't.
No. Yeah. I think you're right.
But yeah, again, same thing. I thought he had an okay first game. I know the camp talk's been great about him.
Yes, it has been. Yeah.
I think he was still good in the preseason game. Sure, there were some plays that they're still catching that slant on him, but he was right there. His hand was always in there. So he was there. It was just the guys hitting him in the stomach. The quarterbacks doing their job, hitting him in the stomach, not putting it outside or anything.
Yeah.
His hands were always in the cookie jar. So I think he's got a shot as well. He's definitely going to, I think, be a problem in the future for Pittsburgh.
Nice. At Beamer Kenny. All right, man. I'll be looking out for you over there at Steeler Nation, the forum. Awesome, man. So last question from Drink Iron City. Tomlin has been rocking his interviews lately. He is a man on a mission, and I like seeing this. Am I the only one noticing he is way down on his Tomlinisms count? He seems to be more coaching than worrying of the accolade Tomlinisms. I see a more no-nonsense coaching attitude. What are you seeing?
I see the same Coach T that's been there. I know he's very quotable and he says a lot that, the Tomlinisms that make him like Tomlin, but he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. I had my thoughts, negativity on him, going back a few years where I thought he's had a great roster. He's had a Hall of Fame quarterback where I think he should have done more than just finishing 500 and getting a playoff win or two. But I think he knows the end is coming with Ben, and it's time. And I think it's all business right now. Right. The standard's the standard, as he says, and I think that's what's going on in camp, and I think that's why stuff like that's not going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've got to agree. To me, yeah, I mean, Cowher, Colbert know it's the last year. They're trying to load up on as much talent as they can. They might make another move here at the end of training camp, especially if somebody's not performing in a position where they really need that performance to be. I'm really happy with the depth this year. Our linebacker depth has gone from like a negative over the last couple of years to like this year just being a glut. I think there's a ton of backup talent at both inside linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive line. And, there's still a couple positions in the secondary where you can still slide in some talent. I don't know if Norwood's going to take over. Might be a swing position, maybe the outs to come in and contribute outside, maybe contribute some safety, maybe contribute at some slot. That might be it. Like they already call him the Swiss Army knife, and he's playing all of those positions. It seems like in training camp as well. So I'm going to watch him bounce around a bit too in these games coming up. So that might take a position where you might be able to keep 10 linebackers now. If you've got somebody that's swapping between safety, swapping between corner, swapping between outside linebacker outside corner. So Justin Lane might be on the edge this year and might only keep 3 other legit safeties.
For sure. And I think like you said, the availability and the guys that can play all over the place. Like Marcus Allen, he wasn't getting the reps in the back end, slide in the middle and make some plays, and probably going to make the roster because of it.
Sutton as well. Yep. We know Sutton can play the slot. We know he can play the edge. We know he can play safety. He's played safety in the dime packages before. When Hilton was playing the slot, he'd go back to deep 9. It's like they've gone and completely changed their whole philosophy. Fitzgerald as well can play freaking anywhere he wants. Guy's super talented, but they have definitely changed their philosophy on how they want defensive backs to be diverse in their ability to move to different locations, to give different looks, to hopefully confuse these quarterbacks and get turnovers. And that's the way too.
And figure, what's his name on the line? I'm forgetting his name. You mentioned before how you played fullback. I'm 99. I'm forgetting his name.
Mondo. Yeah. Henry Mondo. Yeah.
Where you can play everywhere. So you try to make the roster any way possible. And the more diverse you are and the more you can do, it gives you an edge over someone else. Look at the resume. He can do this. The other guy can't. And it gives you a plus going into the cuts. So
yeah.
I think their priority right now in camp is just getting TJ done. I think that's kind of it because, as you said, they're so deep.
Right.
Watching the edge rushers, it's like, dang it, man. Like, I figure last year was like after Highsmith, what do you got? And Marsh looked great at times. The guy that went to the Titans with Bud, I'm forgetting his name as well. You mentioned it before.
Oh, yeah. Denny.
Yep. And it's like he wasn't really deep. It was like, he's going to make the roster because he kind of has to.
But I've got to put that in perspective, too. Like, if Ola Adeniyi was on this roster, I probably wouldn't have him in the top 5.
No, here, hold on. I'll open the door for you. I'll open the door for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have Roche over him. I'd have Marsh, Ingram, of course, Highsmith and Watt over him. Like that's how much this depth has changed from last year. Our 4th best offensive or outside linebacker this year might be our 6th or 7th. He'd be pushing with Jones to be the 6th best outside linebacker on this team. So really interesting stuff. And I haven't done any read up. I don't know if he's improved. Like, this is just strictly going on what I remember he did last year and the previous years as a Steeler, not taking into account what he's doing this year at Titans.
He always looked good in camp where it's like, oh man, this guy could be good. And then when he actually had those reps in the regular season, he didn't do anything with them. So I can't disagree with you on that. Right now, he'd be out the door. I'll open the door for you. You can, don't let the door hit you on the way out kind of deal with him. So especially how deep they look this year. I'm so excited how deep they are on the line. Both like literally rushers and on the front. I'm just really pumped. It's great having depth for once.
Yeah.
Don't really have to say that very often. Same thing on the inside because we really needed that last season. So it's great.
So are you going to be at the Philly game this week?
Yeah. Yep. Going Thursday. Okay. Because there's somebody over here called Philly Flipper over on YouTube chiming in, said this dude's bangs are out of control. I'll put them suckers in the top 5. So Philly already in the house, throwing shade, having fun with Love it. Wouldn't have it any other way, would you?
Right? Oh, I love me some Philly. Yeah, I lived up in Bucks County for 13 years. And, I love the Phillies. I even like the Flyers a bit. I'm one of the few people that can watch the Flyers and the Penguins, and all of my Flyers friends and the people I played hockey with in Philly can't stand me for it. But everybody else, that's just the way I am. I know Pittsburgh would probably hate me for it too, but I'm a Pennsylvania guy, Central PA.
Jeez.
I know. I'm a Central PA guy. My first favorite Pennsylvania hockey team, though, Hershey Bears. Hershey Bears, the first game I ever went to. Sucks that they're with Washington now. That sucks. Oh my gosh.
See, you always have something for me. Every show, there's something for me. And that's what's great about you. There's always something that it's like Hershey Bears. Who would have thought the Hershey Bears would have came up in this conversation today?
Right. And a little shout out to the baby pens in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. I used to go up to those games as well. But yeah, Hershey Bears is my first love. Got a Hershey Bears jersey. I got to get a baby Pens jersey. I still don't have one of them yet, but I definitely want to get a baby Pens jersey. So Colton, another freaking awesome quick hour with my partner in crime and co-host for the season. I love talking sports with you. Love anytime I can get you on the show. Obviously, you're going to be at the game, so you're not going to do a post game comments. I'm going to be in the Philly area, I think, on Thursday night. Holy crap. So I'll be driving through. I might stop in for the game.
Come on.
But I'd like to get that Q&A done right after the game. So Steeler Nation, I'm planning on trying to get this Q&A done. So hop on all of the Steeler Nation channels, Steeler Nation Twitter, which is at Steeler Nation, Steeler Nation Facebook, facebook.com/SteelerNationCom, and of course YouTube, youtube.com/Steeler Nation to do the Q&As after the game. Blast last time. Looking forward to this again. Colton, you've got to tell Steeler Nation how to follow you and how to follow that awesome podcast, Personal Foul Podcast, that you're on as well.
Yeah, so you can follow the Personal Foul Podcast on Twitter at Foul_Podcast. Had Michael Burton on from the Kansas City Chiefs, former New Orleans Saints fullback. So it was great talking to him about playing with Drew Brees, now Patrick Mahomes. So that was exciting. But yeah, you can follow me on there, and you can follow me at The Real Sea Wagon. That's where I post all my Steelers content, kind of where I do all my Steelers talking and ranting. So yeah, that's kind of where you can find me. You can find the podcast anywhere on your outlets, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever it's there. So give me a check, and I'm always down to talk Steelers or whatever football, any sports.
Right.
I'm down to talk sports.
And you can talk with the best. I'm Colton. Love having you, man.
I love being on here, man. Love talking the best team in the league, and just my favorite team ever. Love talking, man. Love talking Pittsburgh football. And this weekend literally got me so fired up hearing all these legends talk just about the neighborhood and the family of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And I feel like every time I meet someone Steelers, it's family, man. I love it.
And crap, Steeler Nation, I forgot. I have a podcast interview tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Join me live across these networks again. Bringing it up right now. Where was Justin? I am interviewing Christopher Carter over from DK Pittsburgh Sports, writer at DK Pittsburgh Sports. So 10 a.m. tomorrow, me and Christopher Carter are going to be talking football again. I'm going to get his insight because he's a writer. He's in there watching the practices, and we'll get some more in-depth questions for them tomorrow. So guys, bring your questions for tomorrow. We'll talk to him tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. See you then. And Steeler Nation, going over, check out our sponsor at tseshop.com. Plenty of awesome stuff to pick up. Read our great articles at SteelerNation.com. Tweet us at Steeler Nation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the podcast for Steeler Nation on Twitter at _SN Podcast. You can follow me if you want to watch somebody that doesn't post much at SN Striker. Striker spelled with a Y. Thanks for joining us for the SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Colton Gesser, rooting along with you as always. Go